Hello everyone and welcome back to Always Watching. Today we are discussing the film The Girl with the Needle. Briefly, the film follows Karolina, a young factory worker who struggles to survive when she falls pregnant. The film is gorgeously shot and it honestly left me at a loss for words. I was just unbelievably shook and electrified by it. I'm going to warn you now, it's best to see this movie without any prior information. Just go in completely blind. And all I can tell you just before I get into the review is that this is well worth the wait, and if you don't want your experience diluted, I advise you stop this review right now. The movie is inspired by true events, a point that's made only at the end of the film. I thought the pacing of the film was fantastic. It literally sucks you into this war-torn universe through its main character, Karolina. We are introduced to Karolina, a desperate young woman at rock bottom. She is widowed, however, she is unable to claim any benefits because her husband's body is unaccounted for. She also works at a factory that pays pennies and is just enough to rent this dingy, sad little room. Her only hope for a better life is when she begins this affair with her boss at the factory. And at first you think that he's going to take advantage of her and this is going to turn into some really dark romance. Instead, he's really nice and even offers to marry her. Unfortunately, circumstances lead her down a different road, one where she is pregnant and totally alone. Now, most of the movie is spent with Karolina, but from what we can see in the background, most people have barely enough to get by, let alone raise a child alone. I love the background characters in this film. Like, everyone just looks like a zombie. They only have the energy to mind their business. Like, no one is really concerned about what everybody else is doing around them. They're just trying to get through the day. Desperate, she tries to abort the baby. However, she is saved by a woman named Dagmar, who claims to run an adoption agency for unwanted children. This stranger fills her head with hope, and suddenly Karolina starts to think, okay, even though a better life is not possible for me, it might be possible for my unwanted child. On some deep level, she knows that what this woman is saying is not true. However, it does relieve her of the burden of getting rid of her own baby. I thought the relationship between Karolina and Dagmar, this woman who claims to have this adoption agency and who claims that there's all these wonderful families who have enough resources during this time to take care of a baby, I think really spoke to the lengths people will go to alleviate themselves of any kind of guilt. I love the way Karolina's character is portrayed because she knows there's something off. And so some part of her wants to find out and some part of her also doesn't really want to find out. And so she kind of hedges her bets by offering to work with Dagmar as a wet nurse. And the closer she gets to her, the harder it is to ignore that this woman is not as altruistic as she seems. And Karolina does a great job of really integrating herself into Dagmar's life. She does everything that she's told, but she's never totally consumed by her. Instead, she just observes, and we don't really find out much about the women dropping off their children, but from what we can see, they are in a state of life or death. And these babies are fresh. Like, women are bringing their babies right out of the womb. Like, they want to get rid of these children as fast as humanly possible. Now, I'm not going to tell you what Dagmar does to the babies. I'm going to let you find out by yourself. But as horrible as that woman is, the film tries to give a nuanced take in terms of complicity. When we find out what Dagmar is doing to these babies, suddenly all these mothers are demanding their children back. Mind you, they had no problems giving up their babies to a complete stranger. And although this movie is set in the distant past, it feels incredibly haunting because it's relevant, especially when we think about the issue of abortion. Trying to find suitable homes for children is not an easy task, especially children whose parents really don't want them. Like, these are women in a state where they want to erase the pregnancy. They don't want anyone to know that they were ever pregnant. Although this movie takes place during a very grim era in history, the commentary it's making is still relevant because when you put people's backs against a wall, you lead them to the devil. And that's exactly what happens to Karolina and all these women. You create a space for people like Dagmar who are able to take advantage of those in their most desperate state. I think that's what I appreciated about this movie. You're really watching not just the time period, but a group of women in society that really feel like they have no other choice. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised by this film. It feels like an instant classic, and it's just gorgeous to watch. It's unsettling, it's scary. It just sucks you in such a way. For those of you who are stubborn enough to watch this entire review, luckily for you, I didn't ruin a lot of it, but just go in with as little information as possible. Do not Google what happened. Do not Google true story, girl with a needle, because honestly, it will hit much harder if you don't know anything. So you guys let me know what you think, and until next time.